Good evening, a guten Chodesh. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and as the Bnei Yissaschar says, the difference between Nisan and Tishrei is that Nisan, since the Shem Havaya is Kesidron, Yud Ke Vav Ke, that we're mechaven to when we say Baruch Atah Hashem, Mekadesh Yisrael V'Roshei Chodoshim, when we say that Shem in that bracha, we're supposed to think of the spelling of the Shem Havaya, which is Mashpia in that month. And for Nisan, it's Kesidron, it's Yud Ke Vav Ke, like the regular name is spelled. And that is the most of Chesed. And it is Isarusa Dila'ela, that we get help from heaven regardless of what we do or don't do. It comes like showering down without our pa'ula. Tishrei needs already our pa'ula, that's called Isarusa Dilatata, that if you don't blow shofar and take a lulav and esrog and eat in the sukkah or fast on Yom Kippur, then the inyonim of the month that have to be mashpia for not only the month but for the year don't happen in its fullest strength to drench Klal Yisrael. But for Nisan, you're zoicha to the full flow, the shefa, the drenching of Klal Yisrael with the midah of chesed for Klal Yisrael. Haba aleinu l'toiva. We are going to speak next week, Be'ezus Hashem, a lot more. I will speak about Pesach and the Seder and the days of Pesach and what it is in Shoirish of the entire year. Now, this week is Tazria, and next week is Mitzorah. Tazria and Mitzorah really have a theme of Negoyim, Lashon Hara, and the Medrash says that there was a Rachel, a man who traveled from town to sell his wares. And he came to the town where Rav Yanai, the famous Rav Yanai, was, and he made an announcement that if somebody wants to buy a elixir or the special ingredients that I have for long life, come to me and buy. So it says that he came to the city, and everyone started coming out. And he said, Mi ho'ish ha'chafetz chaim ohev yomim liros tov, nitzor lishoncha meira. Now, every kindergartner says that pasuk, those two psukim, every single Shabbos. It's from Tehillim. And Rav Yanai proclaimed when he heard what the Rachel said, he said, I never ever understood the full dimension of those psukim till I just heard what the Rachel, the salesman, said. And the Meforshim really are aghast, because when the Medrash makes such a statement, Rav Yanai was Kodesh Kodoshim. He knew the pasuk from the time he was 2 years old. What did he hear that he said? Everyone knows, watch what you say, and you can be zoichet to long life. Oyev yamim liros tov, the Chavetz Chaim was nifter in his 90s and was a champion of Sforim, a machaber of Sforim and the Indian of Lashon Hara. So we see a lifelike example of what it means to watch what you say. What was Rav Yanai so impressed with what this Rachel said? It seemed to have been an everyday bit of knowledge for everybody. But the Meforshim explain, Rav Yanai thought to be careful and to be mahader in the Indian of Lashon Hara and not to speak it, you had to be like a hermit. You had to go on top of a mountain, don't talk to people, don't be with people, because it brings a conversation, brings to Lashon Hara. But he heard from this salesman, because what does the word rochel, which means a salesman who brings fares from one town to another and sells, and the word rochel is like from lo selech rochel biamecha rechilos, that they're always carrying gossip from one place to another. And he thought that to avoid all of this, you have to be very careful and watch what you say and with whom you are when you say. But he never thought that somebody who's going from door to door, because most salesmen, they'll come to the door, they'll want to create good atmosphere. And they'll want the people to be interested and be in a good mood. And they'll come and say, oh, did you hear what happened to Chaim in this town? Did you hear what happened and what Shloimeh did? And the people are interested in hear, oh, what happened? And then he gets them to buy his fares because he's created some comfortable atmosphere. So Rav Yanai thought that that's what they do and that's how you have to do it. So he's a champion of Lashon Hara, but here he heard the Rochel himself say such a thing that he was like in shock. He said the dimension of this Rochel gave us new understanding that you don't have to be a hermit living on top of a mountain to be able to be someone who can be mahader and careful in what he says and what he listens to. And many people who 50 years ago, I used to hear from people who were by the Chavetz Chaim. They learned by him. Rav Lezer Levine, Zechron Levrach from Detroit, was a Talmud by the Chavetz Chaim. They used to say that he would sit in conversation with the people. He was very careful about Lashon Hara. But he wasn't someone that said, you would think he would sit there and keep quiet and be careful what he said. He was always talking. So that was the lesson that Rav Yanai found so astonishing and shared with the people of his town. Now, the Balaturim says that there is two places in the whole Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, that the word Nira Li, Nira, appear. One is Ar Sedra, Kanega Nira Hashem Li, and in a pasuk in Tillim, May Rachok Hashem Nira Li, that May Rachok from far HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to me. And so we find the two Niras. And Rav Zevin, in one of his Svarim, talked why these two, why would the Balaturim have put together these two? Because it really, what do you mean when it says kinega nirali? Like, it should say nega. I see a nega. So he explained, because quite often when a person sees something which looks like a bad sign, that meirachok, that from far, the pasuk in Tehillim says, meirachok Hashem nirali, from far. What do you mean from far? Why does the pasuk have to employ the concept of from far? Hashem appeared to me. But the answer is that quite often people see events in life and they're far from the person. The person has difficulty in understanding why is it happening. And we know that it's not once in a lifetime, that every day a person encounters difficulties, problems that he doesn't see right in front of him of a solution. And that's why the Medrash says that Vayaris HaMakom Meirachok, that why doesn't it say by Avram, by the Akedah, that he saw where he was bringing Yitzchak to be nishcha, to be slaughtered and given as a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why does it say that he saw the place meirachok? We understand he was traveling. He wasn't living right there near the Har HaBayis. But it could have been a big question to Avram. Avram could have thought, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you were promising me that I'm going to have a son, there's going to be a nation from him. You're giving Eretz Yisrael to me. There were so many promises, and that I would pass it down to my son. And now you're taking that son, my one and only, the special one. That means he had Yishmael, but the special one. And you're asking me to shecht him? So it was meirachok, hard to understand, even though Avram Avinu didn't question, didn't say anything, and he was oimed bin nisayon, above and beyond. Like Rav Hutner, Zechrono Livracha, used to say, the Akedah never took place. That means Avram Avinu was oimed bin nisayon. He brought, and the Torah is myriad, his son to be shechted. But bottom line, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So why is there so much credit that on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur we're always talking Zechor Akedas Yitzchak? Because by Yidden, when their full heart is there, it's considered as if they did. Means many times we try to do something and it's noble, but it doesn't end up happening. But we were ready for it to happen. So with all the questions surrounding the event, wholeheartedly Avram Avinu went, even though it was meirachok. He could have asked a lot of kashas. Now, when a person saw Nira leave, the first thing where he saw a nega, a plague, was the house. And we know that he had to destroy the house. And as Rashi brings, and the Chazal say that when he destroyed the house, it was a bracha. So the Meforshim say bracha. He had to go brick by brick and destroy the house completely. Where was the bracha? So Rashi answers and brings the Medrash that most of those who tore down their houses found unbelievable treasures inside of the house. Because the Canaanim and the and Mori and everyone. There were 7 nations, but only 6 fought. Girgashi did not fight because they encountered, and the people said, we give up, we're not going to fight. They said there was no fighting. But for the others who came in to Eretz Yisrael and they conquered, when they took down the house because there was a nega, in most cases they found a treasure because these goyim, there were no banks. They used to hide their money and their gold and their treasures inside the house. So when they knocked down the house, they found a treasure. So the Mefarshim say, well, this guy had a nega. Was that a bracha or was it a bad sign? In other words, we thought it was like a punishment. He had to knock down his house. But he ended up finding a treasure. So the Mefarshim say, because usually what looks to us as something that's definitely negative, it's not negative. Because in the master plan, if you could see from where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was coming and what the past doros and generations did or didn't do, and their cheshboin is hanging over the person or his family, that whatever happens to be a bracha in essence. We just don't see it. We just don't understand it. It's meirachok. It's from far because it's not in front of us. Why it's happening and how it's happening and the end result of what's occurring. So the actual thing that looked like a terrible event was really a treasure chest of goodness from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it set straight our trend of thought and events. You know, something happens, the Gemara says, even if a person pulls a coin, he's looking for a quarter, and he keeps putting his hand into his pocket, and he's pulling out nickels and dimes. He says, what's going on? I can't find a quarter. What? But if he doesn't say that, the Gemara says it takes off bushel baskets of oynish that's waiting for him because of Averis he did. And by the slightest disappointment in Olam Hazeh, he can wipe off the slate bushel baskets of Averis by not complaining when it happens, but putting his hand into the pocket and has to pull out 6 times till he finds a quarter, but he doesn't complain about it. It wipes clean many cheshbonis that are confronting him, he, and his family. So we have, the word is condition, our frame of mind to go through the day that we're not disappointed with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. And it's not easy, because we're human, and we do have disappointments. And things hit us on face value. But if we're able to condition a little bit, we can have even greater benefit than meets the eye. Now, the Kotzker asks, one said, and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh discusses it also, the beginning of our Sedra talks about a woman who conceives and is expecting and then gives birth. And the pasuk says that if she gives birth to a boy, she's tamei for 7 days, midiraisa. That means she's tamei much longer, midirabanan. But midiraisa, it's 7 days. Now, if she gives birth, says the pasuk, ve'im nekeva seleid, v'tama shevu'ayim. that she is tamei for 2 weeks, 14 days. And it would seem like it's an injustice. A boy is born, it's 7 days. A girl is born, it's 14 days. Says the Kotzker and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh that it's really an unbelievable thing. Why? Because when a woman gives birth, the child comes into this world and there's a void of Kedusha. While the baby is in the mother, everything she eats, everything she says, every parak of Tillim she says, every Shemona Esrei she davens, every coin that she puts into tzedakah affects the development, both the ruchnius and the physical, but much more the ruchnius of the child. Now, when the child comes out, there is a void. And they all say that it leaves, because that's Kedusha. You're developing a human being in the person. And when that development process concludes, so it leaves the woman void of every day enriching, uplifting, and affecting this future human being, her child. Now, and they say, and this is for the feminists who think that the Torah is anti-feminine, this is like a paradigm, this is like an example par excellence of the silver platter and station in Yiddishkeit given to the female, to the young girl. You see the word, when Chava gave birth, she said, and Leah used the same lashon, kanisi, as Hashem. Hashem has acquired for me a greater affection by my husband because I now gave to him a child. And a woman is a creator. A boy is not. Yes, he has his chelek in developing a new baby, but it's the woman that the child is in, is growing in its ruchnius and its everything. And when she gives birth, she becomes void. She finished the process. She was a builder, and she was able to develop a new human being. So when she gives birth, there is a void. She was doing a Maisa Kedusha, says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the whole 9 months. And now there's a void of those 9 months because the baby's born. And that's why Tumah isn't a Metzias. Tumah is a lack of Kedusha. There was Kedusha for 9 months and now the baby's born, so Tumah sets in. But she gave birth to a creator of human beings. And that's why the Tumah is double, because the Kedusha was more. Because she is a creator and now the mother is void of that creation. But she produced a creator in turn, who in turn will become a creator of her own stature and status. And that's why a girl is 2 weeks and a boy is only 1 week. Not that the boy has it easy, well, it's only 1 week of Tumah and the other is 2 weeks. It's because that the greater level and dose of Kedusha now leaves the mother, and that void brings the double Tumah because she is a creator and at a higher level. So says the Kotzker Rebbe and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. So when you think of this, that unfortunately there are so many people, I once said on the radio, they asked me 2 weeks ago, the host of the program asked me to talk about Senator Lieberman, Oliver Sholem. Now, he was a frum Yid, and he came many times to my house for dinner. We had a minyan when he was a novel for his mother. And we had a basic difference of opinion because the Senator Lieberman said, I represent the people of Connecticut. And most of them are pro-abortion. So I vote pro-abortion in the Senate. For myself, my own views, I'm a frum Yid. I would never do an abortion, or any of my kids would do an abortion, chas v'sholom. And if I'm asked my personal opinion, I'm vehement against it. And I always would say to him that as a frum Yid, you can't vote because you're representing Connecticut for something which is really considered murder. And we're taking away the life, the schus of having a life in a body, and going and killing the life and taking away the life. And that's exactly what this represents when it talks about Isha ki Tazria v'yolda zocher, of the role of the majesty of a woman and being given the gift and the responsibility of developing a new creator in this world. So I want to say to you that the Haftorah in Parshas Tazria talks about a man named Naaman. Now, Naaman was the Sar Tzva Aram. He was a mighty, the way the Chazal, he would walk in by 100 people and be able to take them on and fight each and every one. He was like a giant and mighty and strong and very able to conquer. But why is this a story of Naaman here? Because he became a Mitzorah. He had, it's not leprosy, we call it leprosy, but it's really not in any which way. Because the nega used to come on the house, then on the clothes, then on the person. In other words, it's a message. And if you don't get the message, it moves on to the next stage. So Naaman was struck with tsaras, and he was although he was so mighty, but he was personally grieving and in terrible, terrible pain. So the Haftorah tells us that he went to Elisha, and Elisha sent out with his assistant a message to Naaman, who was in the waiting room outside. Go to the Yarden and dip yourself up and down in the Yarden 7 times, and you're going to be freed of the tsaras. And Naaman got the message, and he stormed out of Elisha's house and said, "What? I am Naaman, the Sar Tzava Aram, and Elisha is sending a message out with his assistant to me. He didn't come out himself to me. I don't need his opinion. I don't need his eitzah. And he went back to Aram, still with the tzaras. Until it says that he got so bad that he couldn't survive from the pain of the tzaras, and he went back to the Yarden, dipped in, and was freed of the tzaras. Now, if you step back for 1 minute and look at this Haftorah, it's a shouting message of usefulness to each and every one of us. We all have a level of ego. We work a whole lifetime to minimize, to become void of it, that it's something that it provides a negative backbone. You can find someone in shul that he wanted maftir that Shabbos, and the Gabbai gave it to someone else. Now he's davening in that shul 27 years. His wife is friends with all the women, and she's part of the ladies' auxiliary. And the children have their friends and their siddur and their that they like. This is their makom that they grew up in. But he didn't get, the father of the house didn't get maftir. Out of the shul, destroying the relationships, sacrificing his whole family on the altar of his ego, because he didn't get maftir. Now, maybe the Gabbai made a mistake. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he deserves an apology. Maybe he should have gotten maftir. But is the maftir, even if he was right, worth so much to destroy all of the relationships and all of the interaction with the community where he has been the 27 years? And that's what we learned from Naaman. He was reeking in pain, the way the Chazal describe it, till he got to a point of death. And that's what brought him finally, because he was almost dead from the pain, the severe pain. And Elisha had Gehazi, his assistant. The Chazal say that one time in Elisha's house, there was a lady that Gehazi was improper with. In other words, didn't do anything, but he had touched like the elbow where she was standing, and he was greatly criticized. But Elisha did not send him away. But when Naaman first came to Elisha, he said right away that he wants to pay for the service, for the advice. But Gehazi said, no, I'm not allowed to take any money. I'm not allowed to. Elisha doesn't, for this service, take anything. Yet when he got done running out of the house, and he told him to go and to dip into the Yarden, Gehazi ran after him and asked him, well, what about some money? And at that point, Elisha sent him away. So the Chazal point out that it was, here there was some criticism of the tznius with the young lady in the house. Not that he touched her in any which way, but of how he behaved. But he felt that he right away backed off, And he, as a human being, he could make a mistake, he could cross the line. But when it came to the money, that showed that there was something rotten in the source, that knowing that Elisha doesn't want to charge for his koyach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he possessed and that he was helping people. Naaman wasn't Jewish, but he was able to teach his staff and the people of the household were all al Devar Hashem. And when he saw he crossed the line with the money, he sent him away. And that is a very good message to us, because we sometimes fool ourselves and we justify things that we do, and really we should not be so proud of ourselves. Oh yeah, I have orchim. Sure, I do this, I do that. So what? That's what you came down to this world to do. That's how you are supposed to behave. Not patting yourself on the back for doing it, but for patting yourself on the back that you're making a nachas ruach for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's how we should train our frame of mind and the way in which we move ahead and do things in our lifetime. Now, the Vilna Gaon says, we just had this past Shabbos Parshas HaChodesh, the fourth and fifth final of the Dalet Parshios, but it ushers us into the framework of Nisan. And tonight, I'm making this video. It's Monday night. It's Rosh Chodesh. Nisan, Sivan, and Av always are one-day Rosh Chodesh. And the Vilna Gaon said, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodoshim. Rishon hu lachem l'chol chodshei hashana. That we know that the halacha is you're not allowed to fast in the month of Nisan every day. No hesped, no fasting. But the first day of Nisan, there are tzaddikim who do fast. On Rosh Chodesh, they fast. So that's what the Vilna Gaon taught. And he said, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, the whole month of Nisan, Rosh Chodoshim, have the halacha of every other month's Rosh Chodesh, that you do not say a hesped, you do not fast. Because each and every day is special, exalted in every which way. But when it comes to the actual Rosh Chodesh of Nisan, it's l'chol chodshei hashana, that you can't fast all the Rosh Chodoshim, but you could fast the days of the month, a whole year. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan has that same halacha, which means that the uniqueness and the special place that the power of what a Rosh Chodesh is in general, that it's quadrupled by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that it has a differentiation between its uniqueness and the uniqueness of all of the month in comparison to all the months of the year. Now we know that Nisan is the Chag HaGeula, and the Gemara says that even though Liyasad Lavo, that the Nisan v'Niflos, when it will come to the Geula Shlema, will be greater than the Nisan of Yetzias Mitzrayim, but Yetzias Mitzrayim will remain the backbone of Geula, and it'll be mentioned then also, even though the Nisim of Yetzias Mitzrayim will be inferior to the nisim of the Geula Shalema that hopefully we will witness with our eyes bekarov. And that's why we will always mention it. Remember this, as the Ramban says. When we make Kiddush, we say Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. And many of the mitzvahs we do, tefillin, look at the nusach of what we say before we put on tefillin, all about Yetzias Mitzrayim. And many of our mitzvahs that we do, Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. But the whole reason we left Mitzrayim was to come to Har Sinai and get the Torah. Had we gone out of Mitzrayim and never received the Torah, so what did we leave Mitzrayim for? To drink tea and rest on a hammock under a tree? I mean, is that why we left Mitzrayim? The whole purpose was to get the Torah, yet we don't mention it. We have Chag HaShavuos, and it's Zman Matan Torah Seinu, but we don't mention Matan Torah every single Shabbos or day. But we have in Krishma Shel Shachris and Krishma Shel Arvis, we have a distinct mention of Zecher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. Because the yesod of our emunah, the power of the emunah that we have, it's so difficult to pull through a day when we think about many legitimate problems that we have in life. It has to do with shidduchim of the children. It has to do with the nachas from children. Some people have 8 children, 7 of them, tremendous nachas. The 8th one, they're crying in Shemona Esrei over every single day. The husband needs parnasa to pay a bill. We have all sorts of problems. But our emunah carries us with the day. And that's why the Zohar HaKadosh says that if a person wants to enrich and lift up the level of the emunah that permeates their neshamas and their minds, it is according to the matzah, the mitzvah of achilas matzah, the first night of Pesach. The second night, the Zohar HaKadosh says it's meichla diasvasa, which means a medicine. It's a ruchnius dika medicine that affects medicine, our medical state and our physical being in Olam Hazeh. And many tzaddikim, many people who were at a Rebbe's Tish, they took the crumbs of the matzah from the second night of Pesach, and after Pesach, because most of them kept that they didn't eat gebruks, they didn't put matzah into liquid, that after Pesach they took the matzah crumbs and pieces and crumbled it up and put it into their wine. And when someone was deathly sick, like by the Balatanya, they took from that wine and gave it to the very, very sick person to help revive them and heal them. So Pesach, and we're going to talk a lot more about it, has the ingredient of emunah and refuah to such a level. And it's that emunah that carries us through the whole year, and that we're able to survive a day's occurrences and challenges because of the power of what the matzah does for us. I want to wish each and every one of you a good week. We're beginning Chodesh Nisan, and Klal Yisrael has the power to bring the Geula about, and we can do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been ready a long time. His Shekhinah is in exile, in Golus, suffering, as the Sforim say. That's why we have Tikkun Chatzos. That's why there's people during the 3 weeks between Shivos B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av who say Tikkun Chatzos every single day, even in the afternoon by Chatzos. Go into Shomer Shabbos, you'll find 100 Yidden sitting on the floor 1 o'clock in the afternoon, not 12 in the middle of the night or 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, in the middle of the afternoon, sitting on the floor saying Tikkun Chatzos. And that's because we want to pull the Shekhinah that Hashem is suffering and in pain, pull it out of the Golus and revive Him also. So we have the power and the opportunity on a silver platter in the month of Nisan, and we should be zoicha to see it before our eyes.